The silver disk of the alien ship hovered above New York City, casting a shadow that stretched for miles. Similar ships floated above every major city on Earth. After decades of wondering if humanity was alone in the universe, they had their answer. Captain Laura Bennett stood on the roof of the United Nations building, her eyes fixed on the massive craft. The wind tugged at her dark hair as she straightened her uniform. In 20 minutes, she would become the first human to officially speak with aliens. "Nervous?" asked a gruff voice behind her. Laura turned to see Frank Mitchell, the Marine assigned as her security detail. His expression remained neutral, but his hand never strayed far from his sidearm. "Just hoping I don't start an interstellar war," Laura replied. Frank's eyes narrowed. "I don't trust them. They show up without warning, position ships over our cities, and then ask for a chat. Seems suspicious." "That's why you're here," Laura said with a tight smile. "To be suspicious while I'm diplomatic." The landing shuttle from the alien ship descended like a falling star, slowing as it approached the makeshift landing pad. It touched down with barely a sound. The door slid open, revealing two figures that were definitely not human. The first alien stood nearly 7 feet tall with a hard exoskeleton that shimmered like polished copper. Multiple limbs moved with precise coordination as it stepped forward. Its head was dominated by compound eyes that reflected the morning sunlight. "The insectoid is a Scytheri representative," whispered the communications specialist beside Laura. "They're supposed to be the military arm of the Council." The second alien moved with a fluid grace. Its blue-green skin glistened with moisture, and webbed hands gestured as it spoke in clicks and whistles to its companion. "That's a Merlani diplomat," the specialist continued. "Aquatic species. Very old civilization." Laura took a deep breath and stepped forward. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I welcome you to our world." The Merlani's translator hummed. "We are grateful for your welcome, Captain Bennett. I am Diplomatic Overseer Quallen of the Merlani Conclave. My colleague is Defense Coordinator Skatorth of the Scytheri Hive. We represent the Galactic Council." "The Council has observed your species for some time," said Skatorth, its mandibles clicking. "Your rapid technological advancement has drawn our attention." Laura kept her expression neutral. "I wasn't aware we were being watched." "All developing worlds are monitored," Quallen said smoothly. "It is the Council's duty to guide emerging species toward peaceful integration with the galactic community." The meeting moved inside where Earth's representatives had gathered. Government officials from major nations filled the room, their faces a mixture of awe and concern. Quallen presented a datapad. "These are the standard terms for protected species status within the Council. This grants humanity certain rights and protections." Frank stood against the wall, watching the aliens' every move. Something about their body language bothered him, though he couldn't pinpoint what. Laura reviewed the document, scrolling through pages of alien text alongside human translations. "This mentions Council oversight of Earth's resources." "A formality," Quallen said, "to ensure sustainable development." Dr. Susan Yates, Earth's leading environmental scientist, pointed to a section of the agreement. "This gives the Council authority to establish extraction facilities. That goes beyond oversight." Skatorth's compound eyes gleamed. "The Council provides protection and technology. In exchange, we share resources. It is equitable." Laura looked up from the document. "We'll need time to review these terms properly." "Of course," Quallen said. "We understand this is a momentous decision." As the aliens returned to their shuttle, Frank moved beside Laura. "They're hiding something." Laura nodded slightly. "I know." That evening, Earth's orbital satellites detected numerous Council ships moving into blockade positions around the planet. When Laura demanded an explanation, Quallen claimed it was standard protocol during negotiations. The line had been drawn. Humanity just didn't know it yet. 3 days after the first contact, a new ship entered Earth's atmosphere. Larger and more menacing than the diplomatic vessels, it descended directly toward the United Nations building without requesting permission. Laura Bennett watched from the window of the emergency meeting room, where Earth's leaders argued about their response to the Council's terms. The aliens had given them 1 week to decide. "They're rushing us," she said to Frank, who stood guard by the door. "Because they don't want us to find the traps in their agreement," he replied. The doors burst open as a team of aides rushed in. "Council Overseer Vexlar has arrived and demands immediate audience," one of them announced. Vexlar entered the room like he owned it. Unlike the previous representatives, this alien had pale, almost translucent skin with visible blue veins. His eyes were large, black, and unblinking. 4 slender arms emerged from his torso, each ending in 6-fingered hands. "The Council grows concerned with Earth's delay," Vexlar said without introduction. "I am here to expedite your integration." The President of the United States stood. "We are reviewing your terms carefully. This decision affects our entire planet." Vexlar's mouth stretched in what might have been a smile. "The terms are standard. All protected species accept them." Dr. Paul Warren entered the room late, carrying a tablet. The xenolinguistics expert had spent every waking hour analyzing the Council's language and documents. "Captain Bennett," he whispered urgently, "I need to speak with you." Laura nodded to Frank, who created a distraction by asking Vexlar detailed questions about Council defense protocols. In the hallway, Paul's face was grave. "The translation they provided is deliberately misleading. The Galactic Standard text doesn't match the English version." "How bad?" Laura asked. "Bad. The Resource Management Clause gives them complete ownership of all Earth's natural resources, and the protection they offer is actually containment. We would become prisoners on our own planet." Laura felt cold anger rising. "Can you prove this?" Paul nodded. "I've documented every discrepancy." When they returned, Vexlar was growing impatient. "The Council cannot wait indefinitely. If Earth refuses protected status, we must implement a protective quarantine for the safety of all parties." "Quarantine?" the Chinese premier asked. "A temporary measure," Vexlar said smoothly, "until Earth reaches an appropriate level of development." Later that evening, world leaders gathered in a secure bunker deep under the Swiss mountains. The Council's tracking technology couldn't penetrate this far underground. "We have 3 options," Laura explained. "Accept their terms and become a slave planet. Reject their terms and face their quarantine. Or stall while we prepare alternatives." "What alternatives?" asked the Russian president. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours." Frank stepped forward. "Maybe not as much as we think." He displayed satellite images on the main screen. 4 of our military satellites went offline yesterday. We recovered this piece from one of them. The image showed a small device attached to the satellite's communication array. "This is Council tech," Frank continued. "We've been studying it. Their systems are advanced, but not incomprehensible." Paul added, "And they're not as unified as they want us to believe. I found references to internal conflicts within the Council." The Brazilian president spoke up. "So we stall while preparing for the worst." Laura nodded. "I'll keep Vexlar talking. Meanwhile, we need our best people working on their technology." As the meeting concluded, Frank received an urgent message. He showed it to Laura with a grim expression. "They've begun moving ships into low Earth orbit, and we've detected unusual activity in the Pacific Ocean." The line was being crossed. Now humanity needed to decide what to do about it. 6 months passed since the Galactic Council first arrived on Earth. Their ships now regularly patrolled the skies, a constant reminder of their presence. On the surface, negotiations continued. Behind closed doors, humanity prepared. Laura Bennett stood before Vexlar and the Council's temporary headquarters, formerly the Grand Hotel in Geneva. The alien's black eyes studied her with growing irritation. "The Council's patience is not endless, Captain Bennett," Vexlar said. 6 months of deliberation is excessive even for a young species." Laura kept her expression neutral. "We appreciate your patience. Today I bring Earth's official response." She handed over a data pad containing Earth's counter-proposal. The document accepted many council terms but rejected or modified the resource management clauses. Vexlar scanned the document, his pale skin flushing slightly blue with anger. These modifications are unacceptable. The Council's protocols are not negotiable. Then perhaps the Council should find another planet to protect, Laura replied evenly. Vexlar's four hands clenched simultaneously. You misunderstand your position, Captain. The Council does not request, it directs. Is that why Council ships have been harvesting our oceans without permission? Laura asked, sliding another datapad across the table. The screen showed underwater footage of Council vessels extracting something from deep ocean trenches. The timestamp showed the recording was taken just 3 days ago. Vexlar barely glanced at it. Standard preliminary resource survey, perfectly within Council authority. Not according to the agreement we're still discussing, Laura countered. Before Vexlar could respond, Laura's secure phone buzzed. She excused herself and stepped outside. This is Bennett. Captain, this is Commander Alicia Reyes, Pacific Fleet. We've lost contact with 2 submarines monitoring the Mariana Trench. Their last transmission reported unusual structures on the ocean floor. Laura's stomach tightened. How long ago? 12 hours. We've sent search teams, but there's interference blocking our sensors in that region. I'll be back in Washington within 3 hours. Don't take any action until then. Laura ended the call and rejoined Vexlar, forcing a smile. Where were we? That night, Laura met with Frank Mitchell in a secure room beneath the Pentagon. Maps of the Mariana Trench covered the screens. What do we know? She asked. Frank pointed to a deep section of the trench. Council ships have been concentrated here. Our last submarine detected an artificial structure before losing contact. The Council claims it's just a survey, Laura said. Frank snorted. A survey doesn't need a facility the size of a football stadium. What are you proposing? A covert mission. Small team, stealth approach. Get in, gather evidence. Get out. Laura studied the maps. Vexlar can't know we're investigating. He won't, Frank promised. 3 days later, Frank led a team of 4 Navy SEALs in experimental deep-sea suits developed using reverse-engineered Council technology. They approached the ocean floor structure using small propulsion units designed to mimic native sea life. What they found shocked them. The survey was actually a massive mining operation. Council machines cut into the ocean floor, extracting rare minerals. Worse, human workers operated smaller equipment under alien supervision. Those are the missing submarine crews, Frank whispered into his comm. They're using our people as slave labor. Frank's team documented everything and planted surveillance devices. As they prepared to leave, one of the SEALs accidentally triggered an alarm. Council security forces converged on their position. Frank ordered his team to scatter. Get the evidence back to Captain Bennett, he commanded. I'll create a diversion. Frank swam directly toward the Council guards, firing his weapon to draw their attention. His team escaped, but Frank was captured after a brief struggle. Hours later, Laura received the evidence along with news of Frank's capture. She stared at the footage of humans working under alien control, her hands shaking with rage. The Council hadn't just crossed the line. They had shattered it completely. Laura slammed the evidence disc onto the table in front of Vexlar. The alien didn't flinch, his black eyes revealing nothing. Explain this, she demanded. The screens around them displayed images of the underwater mining operation and the captured humans. You seem upset, Captain Bennett, Vexlar said calmly. This is a simple misunderstanding of galactic customs. Kidnapping our people and forcing them to work is not a custom. It's slavery. Vexlar waved 2 of his hands dismissively. Temporary conscription during resource evaluation. Standard practice. Your people are unharmed and will be returned once the survey is complete. And Officer Mitchell, the intruder, he violated Council security protocols. His case requires review by Council authorities. Laura leaned forward. This ends now. Release our people and cease all unauthorized operations in our oceans. Vexillar's skin flushed blue again. You forget your place, Captain. Earth is not in a position to make demands. After the meeting, Laura returned to the underground facility where Earth's resistance was centered. Commander Alicia Rice waited with Dr. Paul Warren and Keith Davis, a brilliant engineer who had been working on Council technology. How did it go? Alicia asked. As expected, Vexillar dismissed everything as galactic customs we don't understand. Keith gestured to a device on the workbench. We may have something that changes the game. Show her, Paul. Paul activated a small spherical object. It projected a holographic display filled with alien text and images. This is an AI core from a Council scout ship we captured last month. We finally cracked its security. What did you find? Laura asked. Earth isn't the first, Paul said grimly. The Council has done this dozens of times before. The hologram showed planet after planet. Each started as a vibrant world and ended depleted with minimal life support. They find developing worlds, offer protection, then strip them of resources, Keith explained. Once they're done, they leave the native species as client states, totally dependent on Council support to survive. Laura studied the images. How long does the process take? Based on the data, about 5 Earth years, Paul replied. They're efficient. Alicia pointed to a different section of the display. But that's not all. The Council has enemies. There are references to several species that resist Council authority. Can we contact them? Laura asked. Keith shook his head. Not yet, but we're working on adapting their communication technology. Laura's secure phone buzzed with an encrypted message. Her eyes widened as she read it. Frank escaped, she announced. He's being extracted from the Pacific by one of our submarines. 2 days later, Frank Mitchell sat in the briefing room, bruised but alive. His right arm was in a sling, but his determination remained unbroken. Their security isn't as good as they think, he said. I managed to access their systems before I got out. The mining operation is just the beginning. They've mapped every major resource deposit on Earth. Did you learn anything about their weaknesses? Alicia asked. Frank nodded. Their ships have impressive weapons, but their hulls are vulnerable to concentrated electromagnetic pulses, and they rely heavily on automated systems that run on predictable algorithms. What about the blockade? Laura asked. 23 ships in total. They rotate positions every 6 hours. There's a pattern we could exploit. Laura looked around the room at humanity's best hope. We need to make a decision. The Council won't wait forever. If we submit, we'll end up like those other worlds, Paul said. Keith added, but if we fight, we risk everything. Alicia's voice was firm. We fight. Smart and strategic. Laura nodded. Then we need a plan that gives us a fighting chance. Frank, work with Alicia on military options. Paul and Keith focus on their technology weaknesses. Frank's eyes were cold with resolve. They took our people. They violated our world. It's time to show the Council they picked the wrong species to bully. 1 month later, Laura stood before Vexillar again. This time her posture was one of defeat. The Earth Council has reached a decision, she said, sliding a document across the table. We accept your terms. Vexillar's mouth formed that strange, not-quite smile. A wise choice, Captain Bennett. The Galactic Council welcomes Earth into its protection. Laura nodded meekly. When will the integration process begin? Immediately. Council administrative personnel will establish operations centers on each continent within 30 days. After the meeting, Laura returned to the underground facility. The room was filled with military and scientific leaders from around the world. Their faces were grim but determined. It's done, she announced. Vexillar believes we've surrendered. Alicia stepped forward. How long do we have? 30 days until they bring in their administrative personnel. In reality, that means their military and resource extraction teams. Frank, his arm now healed, pointed to a large digital map. Then we have 30 days to prepare Operation Thunderstrike. The map showed key locations around the world where Council forces had established preliminary bases. Each was marked for surveillance or action. In a separate lab, Paul and Keith worked tirelessly on a Council communication device. The sleek alien technology was partially disassembled on their workbench. "The virus is almost ready," Paul said, not looking up from his work. "It will infiltrate their network and disable ship-to-ship communications for approximately 6 hours." Keith nodded. "That should give our people enough time." The hard part was making it undetectable to their security systems. Back in the main room, Alicia briefed a team of naval officers. "The first Council administrative ship will enter Earth's atmosphere in 29 days. We'll have a narrow window to implement Phase 1. Laura studied the detailed operation plans. It was desperate, but it was humanity's best chance. Over the next 4 weeks, Earth maintained the illusion of compliance. Council observers watched as humans seemingly accepted their new status. Behind the scenes, the resistance worked around the clock. Frank trained Special Forces teams in the use of weapons modified with Council technology. Remember, their body armor repels conventional bullets, but these modified rounds will penetrate at close range. The soldiers practiced in underground facilities, away from Council surveillance. Meanwhile, Alicia oversaw the conversion of civilian ships for military purposes. Fishing vessels, cargo ships, and even cruise liners were secretly equipped with weapons and shielding technology reverse-engineered from Council designs. "They won't expect an attack from what looks like civilian craft," she explained to her officers. "That's our advantage." In the lunar shadow, hidden from Council sensors, Earth's first true stealth warship neared completion. The VSS Defiance incorporated everything humans had learned about Council technology. Its hull was designed to absorb rather than reflect detection signals, making it virtually invisible to Council scanners. 2 days before the arrival of the Council administrative ships, Laura met with the Resistance leadership for the final briefing. "Once we start this, there's no going back," she warned. "The Council will respond with full force. They're already destroying our world," Frank said. "The underwater mining has damaged entire marine ecosystems. Their atmospheric processors are altering our climate." Hall added, "And they've begun taking more humans for their labor camps. Nearly 1,000 people have disappeared in the last week alone." Alicia's voice was steady. "Every day we wait, they entrench themselves deeper." Laura nodded. "Then we proceed as planned. In 48 hours, Operation Thunderstrike begins." As they left the meeting, Keith approached Laura with a small device. "This is for you. If things go wrong, it will send an emergency signal to all our forces to implement the contingency plan." Laura slipped the device into her pocket. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that." Around the world, humanity held its breath and prepared for war. The massive Council ship entered Earth's atmosphere at dawn. It was 3 times larger than previous vessels, gray and ominous against the morning sky. Smaller ships flanked it on all sides. The Council administrative personnel had arrived. Laura Bennett watched from the official greeting platform in Geneva. She wore her formal uniform and kept her expression carefully neutral. Beside her, Vexler seemed almost smug. "The integration begins today," he said. "A historic moment for your species." In orbit, Council extraction ships positioned themselves above the Amazon rainforest. Others hovered over the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Their harvesting equipment extended downward, ready to begin large-scale resource collection. Laura checked her watch. 3 minutes until Operation Thunderstrike began. In an underground bunker, Paul Warren sat before a bank of computers. Keith Davis stood behind him, watching the screens intently. "Initiating virus upload," Paul said, typing a final command. The virus they had developed over the past month entered the Council communication network. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the status indicators for Council ships began to flash red. "Communication disruption successful," Keith announced into his secure radio. "All Council ships are now operating independently. You have 6 hours, Across the globe, humanity launched its coordinated attack. On the greeting platform, Laura's phone vibrated in her pocket. She turned to Vexlar. "Would you excuse me for a moment? I need to welcome your personnel." As she walked away, Frank Mitchell and his team emerged from hidden positions around the platform. They wore armor enhanced with Council technology and carried modified weapons. "Council representatives, you are now hostages of Earth," Frank announced. "Remain still, and you will not be harmed." Vexlar's skin turned deep blue with fury. "This is outrage. The Council will destroy your world for this." In orbit, the VSS Defiance emerged from the dark side of the moon. Commander Alicia Rice sat in the captain's chair, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Target the extraction ships first," she ordered. "Fire when ready." The Defiance's weapons, based on Council technology, but modified by human engineers, fired brilliant pulses of energy. The first two extraction ships exploded before they could raise their shields. Around the world, the converted human vessels attacked Council ships near Earth's surface. Fishing boats launched missiles at hovering alien craft. Cargo ships revealed hidden gun emplacements. Council ships scrambled to respond, but without their coordinated communication network, their movements were chaotic and disorganized. In the Atlantic, a Council water extraction vessel was surrounded by 5 converted cruise ships. Their combined firepower overwhelmed its shields, sending it crashing into the ocean. Frank and his team secured the Council representatives in Geneva. Laura approached Vexlar, who was now restrained. "You have violated Council law," he hissed. "The punishment is planetary quarantine." Laura leaned close. "We reviewed your laws carefully. There's nothing against defending one's world from invasion." Across the globe, the initial attack was succeeding. Council forces were in retreat, falling back to defensive positions. Humanity had achieved surprise. Paul and Keith monitored the battle from their bunker. "Council communications are still down," Paul reported, "but they're working to restore their systems." In orbit, Alicia and the Defiance engaged the largest Council vessels. The human ship was smaller but more maneuverable, darting between the alien craft and firing at their weak points. "Council reinforcements detected," her tactical officer announced. "Multiple ships entering the solar system." Alicia's expression remained determined. "Hold course. We knew they would come." The initial victory was stunning. Nearly 30% of Council forces had been destroyed or disabled in the first hour of combat. But as the Council began to regroup, the tide started to turn. In Geneva, Frank received alarming reports from around the world. Council ships were adapting to the human tactics, raising their shields permanently and coordinating through backup systems. "They're launching counterattacks in Asia and North America," he told Laura. "And their reinforcements will arrive within hours." Laura looked at the captured Council members, then at the battle raging in the sky above. Then we moved to Phase 2. Operation Thunderstrike had drawn first blood. But the war for Earth's future had only begun. The sky over New York burned. Council warships unleashed devastating weapons that turned skyscrapers to dust. Similar attacks hit major cities across the globe as the aliens responded to humanity's surprise attack with overwhelming force. 3 days into the war, Laura Bennett and her team had abandoned their headquarters for a mobile command center hidden in the Rocky Mountains. Reports from around the world painted a grim picture. "London is gone," Frank said, his voice hollow as he studied the latest intelligence. "Paris and Beijing, too. They're targeting population centers." Laura's face remained firm despite the news. "Casualties lower than expected. Our early warning systems got most civilians to the underground shelters before the attacks." Alicia appeared on the main screen, her image flickering from interference. The VSS Defiance had been in continuous combat for 72 hours. "We've lost 30% of our converted vessels," she reported. "The Council reinforcements have arrived in full force. We're moving to fallback positions." "What about the Defiance?" Laura asked. "Still operational, but our shields are failing. We've destroyed 12 Council ships. but there are too many. Laura nodded. Implement scatter protocol. We need to preserve our remaining forces. The human resistance forces had planned for this moment. As Council ships dominated the skies, Earth's defenders disappeared into hidden bases spread across the planet. Some retreated to undersea facilities, others to hardened bunkers deep underground. The fight would continue from the shadows. In a concealed laboratory beneath the ruins of MIT, Keith Davis worked frantically to integrate captured Council technology with human weapon systems. The blast doors above had held against 3 direct hits from Council weapons. We need a breakthrough, he muttered as he connected alien power cells to a modified missile guidance system. A soldier rushed in with news. Dr. Davis, we've captured something important. You need to see this immediately. The soldier led Keith to a secure containment area where a Council storage device sat under guard. Scientists in protective gear examined it cautiously. We recovered this from a downed Council shuttle, the lead scientist explained. It contains plans for a bioweapon. Keith reviewed the data with growing horror. They're planning to make Earth uninhabitable for humans. This weapon would alter our atmosphere, making it toxic to us, but perfect for Council species. He immediately contacted Frank, who was leading defense operations in what remained of the western United States. How soon could they deploy it? Frank asked. Based on these specifications, they already have working prototypes. They could release it within days. Frank's face hardened. Send everything to Captain Bennett. I'll organize strike teams to target suspected bioweapon storage facilities. In orbit, the VSS Defiance and its remaining sister ships regrouped for a desperate mission. Alicia addressed her crew, their faces tired but determined. The Council command vessel has entered Earth orbit, she said, pointing to a massive ship on their tactical display. It's coordinating all enemy operations. We believe it also controls the bioweapon deployment. Our odds of success? Asked her tactical officer. Minimal, Alicia admitted. But if we don't try, humanity has no chance. Meanwhile, Laura and Paul Warren worked to broadcast evidence of Council atrocities across all galactic communication channels. Using the communication technology they had captured, they sent images of the Council's attacks on Earth's cities and details of the planned bioweapon. Will anyone even receive this? Laura asked as they prepared the transmission. Paul nodded. The Council isn't the only power in the galaxy. Remember the data we found about species that resist them. This message is for them. And if they don't respond, then we fight until the end, Paul said simply. To their surprise, the broadcast triggered immediate reactions. Within hours, unknown ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. They weren't Council designs. Captain Bennett, a communications officer, called out, "We're receiving a transmission in response to our broadcast. They identify themselves as the Resistance Alliance, species that have also suffered under Council rule." Laura exchanged hopeful glances with her team. Put them through. 6 months after humanity's first strike against the Galactic Council, the solar system had become a battlefield of burned ships and broken worlds. Mars' smaller moon, Deimos, had been shattered in the fighting. Earth itself bore the scars of war, with vast regions turned to wasteland by Council weapons. Yet humanity had survived. Laura Bennett stood on the observation deck of the Alliance flagship Redemption, looking down at the blue planet she had fought so hard to defend. Beside her stood Kelser, a tall reptilian being who led the Resistance Alliance. "Your people fought well," Kelser said, his voice a low rumble. "No species has ever damaged the Council so severely before." "We had help," Laura acknowledged. "Without the Alliance, Earth would have fallen." The arrival of the Resistance Alliance had changed everything. Species from across the galaxy who had suffered under Council rule united with humanity in common cause. Their combined forces pushed the Council into retreat after months of brutal conflict. On Earth, Frank Mitchell supervised the cleanup of Council technology from the ruins of Chicago. His team worked alongside Mrillians, a species that had broken free from Council control decades earlier. Their bioweapon factories are completely dismantled, he reported to Laura via holographic communication. No trace of the atmospheric toxins remain. Laura nodded. Good work. How are the restoration efforts progressing? Slowly, but we're making progress. The Alliance terraforming techniques are helping repair the worst damage. Across the system, Commander Alicia Rise led a combined human-alien fleet. The VSS Defiance, badly damaged but still operational, flew alongside ships from a dozen different worlds. They patrolled the outer planets, ensuring no Council forces remained hidden. Council communication signals detected near Saturn, her alien navigator reported. Intercept course, Alicia ordered. Let's make sure they're not planning a return visit. In the lunar base, now expanded into a major Alliance facility, Dr. Paul Warren and Keith Davis worked with scientists from across the galaxy. The knowledge exchange had accelerated human technology by centuries. The new translation matrix is ready, Paul announced to the assembled team. It will allow instant communication between all Alliance languages. Keith added, and we've incorporated Council encryption techniques into our security protocols. They won't be able to hack our systems again. After months of fighting, the remaining Council forces had withdrawn beyond the Orion Arm. The cost had been enormous for all sides, but for the first time in millennia, the Council's expansion had been stopped. Representatives from 17 species gathered on Luna for the historic signing of the Treaty of Luna. Laura sat at the table alongside leaders from worlds whose names humans were still learning to pronounce. The treaty established a new interstellar alliance, with Earth as its headquarters. The Council's authority would be permanently limited, and all worlds under its control would be granted independence. Vexlar, one of the few surviving Council representatives, was forced to sign on behalf of the defeated Council. His once arrogant demeanor was gone, replaced by the sullen recognition of defeat. This changes nothing, he hissed to Laura after the ceremony. The Council has existed for millennia. You are merely a setback. Laura smiled. A setback that destroyed half your fleet and united the galaxy against you. I'd call that more than nothing. In the years that followed, humanity emerged as leaders in the new galactic order. Frank oversaw the Alliance peacekeeping forces that ensured Council compliance with the treaty. Alicia directed the expansion of the combined defense fleet, with ships now patrolling far beyond Earth's solar system. Paul and Keith established new protocols for interspecies cooperation, ensuring that knowledge and resources were shared fairly among all worlds. And Laura, now serving as Earth's representative on the Alliance Council, watched as humanity took its place among the stars not as conquerors or victims, but as equals and protectors. The final vindication came 5 years after the war, when Council ships returned to Earth's solar system. This time, they came not as invaders but as supplicants, seeking protection against a new threat from beyond the galaxy's edge. The Council had crossed the line. Humanity had obliterated it, and in doing so, they had redrawn the boundaries of galactic civilization.